It's all just an illusion. What do I mean by all? Well, I mean a lot of things. But in this episode, I am talking about time as an illusion. We know that you were born magical. We know that you are intuitive, and we know that you are brimming with everyday enchantment. Here at the Sisters Enchanted, we believe in intention, we believe in intuition, and we believe in everyday magic. Welcome in to the Expedition to Soul podcast. Welcome to this episode of Expedition to Soul. I am Sarah, founder of the Sisters Enchanted, and time is one of the things I love to talk about. And it's because it is the number one thing that people tell me they don't have enough of. And I feel passionately that time really is a self-created construct, that much of time really is an illusion. Okay, let's dial it back here and talk very pragmatically about time. So it is one of those things where you have 24 hours in a day, there's so many days in a month, so many days in a week, and there's all of this stuff that you have to do. This is where the illusion comes in, is that we have all of this stuff that we have to do. The reality is that you prioritize what matters to you. And if you're not prioritizing what matters to you, then there is some inner work to be done around that, because we fill our calendars, we fill our days with all of this like work and taking care of people and hobbies and societal expectations, right? But the reality is that so many of us don't have what appears to be enough time to do everything that we want to do. So then what do we do with that, right? Like, how do we reconcile this idea that I'm here telling you time's an illusion, but it feels like you can't do anything? Well, it really does come down to knowing yourself, knowing your values, knowing what you want for your life, and learning to say no to everything else. And also learning to accept what is your priority and what isn't. One of the things I hear from people is saying, oh, I would love to, I just don't have time. Or, oh, there's just not enough time to do everything I want to do. The reality is that when you are clear on what matters to you, you will make time for that. When you are unclear about what it matters to you, what your priorities are, it is more challenging to make the time for the things that matter in your life. When we look, for example, at time as something that starts and ends, like Monday starts and Monday ends, rather than this expansive circle that goes around and around and around again, where there are multiple entrance points and multiple opportunities to pick up and get off, right? When we look at it as linear, we really set ourselves up for failure, because we might say, oh, there's only 2 hours left of the day, I don't have time to start this thing. But when we look at time as this ongoing like circle that never ends, any point in time is a perfect opportunity to say yes to something, to start something, to do something different, right? We start to look at time as expansive and available, rather than something that is just continuously running out on us and that we are always, always, always chasing down. We look at time too very linearly when we look at lives. We'll look at, birth to death as this thing that is like, it's just one road, right? It starts and it ends. But that's not true either, because we are seeing these circles of birth and death constantly in our own lives. When there's a new part of us born, or a piece of us that dies away or no longer exists, or we get out of a relationship, or we transform, our role in the world in some way, we're constantly being reborn into another part of our lives, and then putting to death some other piece of our life. We also think of past, present, and future as all these separate beings, all these separate pieces, but they're all existing in one time right now. Everything from 5 minutes ago is impacting you right now, and right now is impacting everything 5 minutes from now. Everything 5 years ago is impacting who you are and the decisions you made that make you right where you are now, which is impacting your 5 years from this point on, right? 5 years from now. So in that way, past, present, and future, they're all together all at once. They are not these separate things that exist outside of each other. There is not, this, when we say, well, in the future, I will get the job of my dreams. In the future, I will make time for whatever. Well, if you're not making time for it right now, it is very unlikely that you're going to in the future, because your present is casting the future. So getting really clear on what it is that you desire, what it is that you value in your life, what you want to prioritize. That's how you start to manifest and create more of what you want, because you prioritize it and you make it happen and you take action on it in the present. Linear time is really setting ourselves up for failure, saying I only have 12 to 2 and I must do all of these things in that time period, or else I am a failure and I haven't gotten everything done and there's not enough time. That is how we set ourselves up to not succeed and to not do the things we want to do to begin with, because we're trying to cram it all in and it's just running against a ticking clock. But when we can say, that time is something we can create more of by saying no to the things that are making it so that we are running against a ticking clock. So if something is a priority, expanding the available time for it rather than constricting it into a small time frame. And in that way, we can look at time and expanding time to create more space for the things that we desire to do or that we must do. So in my life, for example, I am a business owner. There are plenty of things I have to do, like that have deadlines. Something has to be done by like Tuesday at noon, or, it's at this time or whatever. And often when it feels like I am running against a ticking clock, it's because I have said yes to too much, and I've said yes to things that aren't truly priorities, or I've tricked myself into thinking that they're priorities and I'm like low key sabotaging myself, right? So understanding, what is it that I am here for? What is it that I am most aligned with? What is the thing that matters most in my life and is making the most impact on what it is that I'm trying to do right now? And then clearing the deck of the other things allows you to expand time to make the things that matter happen for you. When we look at time as only linear, again, we're constantly losing it. We're never creating more of it. We are constantly losing it. So we want to look at time as a circle, as expansive, as cyclical. So there are all these pieces and all these moments for us to reset, to recalibrate, to reconsider, and create more space for the things that matter to us. Now, I often say, though, that time is your only non renewable resource. And I do think that time is non renewable, in that the time that has passed, you cannot recreate in your life. But that does not mean that the time you have ahead of you, you can't expand and make it feel like you have the space that you have the space to do what it is that you want to do in your life. And that comes through looking at time as expansive and prioritizing the things that matter to you. The other way that I would look at time in this more expansive way, rather than it just being this linear thing that you're always running out of, is looking at your energy, which is also cyclical in nature. So the different parts of the day where you feel more high energy or more low energy, or you have more patience or less patience, and then aligning your life to fit those types of energies. So for the things that require a lot of brain power from you and a lot of being on point and like focused, where is your energetic high point for that? And starting to schedule your day, if you can, in the best way that you can, to align with those energetic rhythms that you already have. That's another way to really fill your time cup up, so that you have overflowing abundance of time and you're not constantly feeling like you're trudging through mud trying to get things done that aren't in alignment with you energetically at some point in time during the day. So time really is this illusion, because it is man-made and it's self-created, that we put all of these constraints on time on us. We overfill our plates. We kind of make these erroneous deadlines. We'll say that, a project must be done on this day at this time, or you need to do this thing before you're a certain age, or lose this many pounds before a certain date. These are all things that we've decided. And the fact that we've decided them pretty much makes them erroneous. So you chose it. Someone dictated it to you. Who's to say that there is not space there to move it, to adjust that timeline? or to adjust your perception of the thing that you want to do before a certain amount of time. And in this way, we start to play with our mindset around how we are receiving life, how we're moving through life, how we're observing our to-do list, how we're observing the expectations we've put on ourselves that are taking up so much time. I am a person who has spent many years of their career working with folks who have ADHD, different executive functioning disorders, and differences and deficits to help them organize time. And one of the ways that I do that is actually getting very linear first. And in getting very linear and seeing how we spend our time as it is. So looking at how you're spending your days, where you're, like every half hour, what did you do in the last half hour? Doing kind of a time audit and getting very, very linear and seeing what start to finish, what is getting done here. And then from there, zooming out and saying, what of these things is in alignment with the life that I want to live? And from there, creating the space for those to exist is how we start to expand the time you have for them and create a more cyclical way of moving through life. So I get linear first, and then I'm able to create this more expansive space for what actually matters. I do this in my own life. I encourage people that I work with to do this. Look at your energy, look at what matters to you, what are your priorities, and craft the time that you have around those things rather than your to-do list first. Because we put so much on our to-do list that it's really easy to think of time as this thing that there's just not enough of. But the reality is, if you know what matters to you, you can make time for those things that matter. But it starts with adjusting your mindset around time and realizing that time is not as linear as we have been led to believe, as we make it out to be for ourselves, and that there is a whole looking at time cyclically. I mean, the moon cycles, the seasons on Earth, your hormonal cycles. There are rhythms and cycles all around us, but we're so busy plowing through from a start to a finish all the time that we don't step back and get in tune with these cycles. We don't see them. We don't acknowledge them. We don't play part in them. And in that way, we're in resistance constantly to the very nature of ourselves and the very nature of the cosmos and the world around us and everything else that's happening is in a rhythm, a cyclical rhythm. And we're over here trying to start and stop days constantly and fill to-do lists with a start and a stop and a success and not success. I did it, I didn't do it, right? And that is so linear. And it is why so many of us feel like failures, like we just can't do enough or we should be able to do more. And it's because we're stuck in this linear way of thinking. Working with the moon phases is a great way to tap into more cyclical natured planning and living. Our 5-eye spiral that we teach in our holistic witchery program, it's a rhythm in there, looking at your energetic patterns. These are all rhythms to help understand that time is not as linear as you've always thought that it was. Oh goodness, I could talk about time all day long. If you are in one of our programs and you have some questions around time and cyclical planning versus linear planning, definitely let me know and I can answer them for you. My top tips for kind of wrapping your head around this and figuring out for you how to tap into more cyclical living would be, 1, to do a time audit and see firstly where your time is going. Number 2, to then look at everything you've done in a week or so and ask, what of those things actually matter to you? What enriched your life? What is in alignment with what you want to be doing? And then create time, create a schedule, create a rhythm around the things you want to do more of. The bottom line is, if you say you don't have time for something, truly what you're saying is you're not prioritizing it. And that's fine. We all have things we're not prioritizing, right? There's plenty of things I'm not prioritizing. But when you shift to say, I'm not prioritizing that over, I don't have time for it, you'll really start to see what it is that you're saying is not a priority for you. And you can live more in alignment with the things that are a priority for you. And then again, understanding that time, when we're not racing against a ticking clock, we can expand the time we have for the things that truly matter to us and get things done in our lives because we're doing things that we love and that matter to us, instead of just trying to check off all these to-do list items, beat a clock, and appear to be successful functioning adults, because that does not matter as much as your joy, your happiness, and a life that feels aligned to you. All right. If you want resources about this, let us know. We do have a time magic class that we can link up for you. And I also want to let you know that my new book, Born Magic, is available for pre order. So we'll have those links for you as well. And you can learn more about what's in alignment for you, why it's so hard to feel aligned in this life, and what you can do about it. So we'll have all these resources for you. But I really want you to think about, for you, how are you going to create more time and not get trapped in this illusion that time is this thing that is just running out and you're never going to have enough of. All right, my friends, thank you for listening to this episode of Expedition to Soul. And until next time, I hope that you have an enchanted rest of your day ahead.
If you liked this episode of the Expedition to Soul podcast, please rate, review, subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, it will really help us spread everyday magic, intention, and intuition to the masses, and helps us so much as a small business. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. There are new episodes every Tuesday. And as always, thank you so much for listening and being part of the community here at the Sisters Enchanted. And we'll see you in the next episode.